Hey guys, so in this video I am going over the study guide for the assessment tomorrow. We've already gone through all of these, but again, these videos are not to replace instruction, they are to help you review what we've already gone over. So for the first part of the assessment, you will be going over the vocab that we have been reviewing and using and kind of relating it to all of the stuff that we've learned. So the first one has blank. Blank is formed by two number lines that intersect at their zeros. So for this one, we are going to have coordinate, plane. For the second one, for the first one, please make sure you realize that the coordinate plane is a thing, and it's made up of all of the other stuff we're going to talk about. So the key word in that definition for coordinate plane is formed by, two words actually, formed by the two number lines that are intersecting. Now for the second one, and I'm going to zero in so it's not jammed up so much in those blanks. The vertical number line is so when we're looking at the coordinate plane is formed by our two number lines that intersect. Then our vertical number line, again keyword vertical, is going to be our up and down line. Our up and down line is going to represent our y values. So this line is our y axis. Now C, our keyword is horizontal number line. Our horizontal number line is the one going from right to left or left to right on our coordinate plane. These are going to be representing our x values. So this number line is called our x-axis. A way to remember what vertical is that the uppercase V, or even the lowercase, goes down and up. And I did that in the wrong color, my bad. Goes down, then up. Your horizontal, or your H, capitalized H, has a right to left line right in the middle of it. So that would be a horizontal line in the letter H. So that's one way that you can remember it. So for number D, you have that the blank is found at the intersection of X and Y. So in this one, we are looking at this dot in the red, or the yellow and green, or the X and Y axes intersect. This place is called the origin. And then for E says that there are 4 blank on a graph, which represents 4 regions. So when we talk about these two lines intersecting, they're going to create 4 regions. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These 4 different regions are called quadrants. The key word in this one is 4 regions. And to make sure you know about D as well, I'm sorry that we're having to go backwards. But for D, make sure you realize that the origin is a place, so it's going to be found at. Those are the key words that you need to pay attention to for your assessment. So for number 2, Number 2 says, using the following table, solve for y, name the points, answer the 3 questions, and then graph the shape. So make sure you show all work and steps to receive full credit. So what we want to do here is we want to substitute our x values in, which are right here, into our function that is given in our middle. So we're going to substitute it in. I'm going to zoom in so we can really look at what's going on. So we've got y equals 2, but instead of x we're substituting in -1 plus 2. Now we have to distribute the 2 to the -1. Now we have y equals 2 times -1, which is -2, plus 2. Then we simplify. -2 plus 2 is 0. So in this third column, it's not asking just for the y value. It's asking for an order pair, or it says that name the points. So when we name the points, we're wanting the x and y value to create our order pair. So I'm going to put the x value, which was -1, that we substituted in the 0 that was our y value that we found. And we're going to do this for all of these. So for the second one, we still have our same equation, y equals 2, but instead of x, I'm going to put 0 plus 2. Then I'm going to distribute my 2 to my 0, and I have y equals 0, because anything times 0 is 0, plus 2. Let's simplify. 0 plus 2 is just 2. And then I take up my x value and my y value and put them in order pair. So 0, 2. Now for one, same equation. I've got y equals 2. Instead of x, I'm going to put 1. I'm going to add 2. Then I'm going to simplify, so I'm going to distribute my 2 first. I've got y equals 2 times 1 is 2, plus 2. And then simplify 1 last time. 2 plus 2 is 4. I'm going to take my x, going to take my y value, and make an order pair, so 1, 4. And now I'm going to answer a few questions. So what is the input circle? So is it the x values or the y values? Think about it like this. If you were thinking about the alphabet, so you know A, B, C, so on and so forth. Well, which one comes first? X first or Y first? It would be our X. If we were comparing our input, would it be first in the alphabet or output? So what I'm meaning there is, would I come first in the alphabet or would O come first in the alphabet? I would. So input comes first. So that's one thing that you can think about, that since our I came first and our X came first, they're going to be similar. So they're going to be the first thing we look at. So in our table, over here, up here, our X values were -1, 0, and 1. So that is, all three of them are going to be our input. So our input was -1, 0, and 1. And those are our X values. Now B asks, so what is the output? So the output is going to be the second thing in the alphabet compared to all of this stuff that I put up in the top right corner. So we're going to look at that second. Where we did that was in the table where we have our yellow at. So we're going to have 0, 2, and 4. And those are going to be our y values. Number C. So what is the function? So what is the equation or equations that we use to find this input-output? Well, it is the y equals 2x plus 2, and it was given. So y equals 2x plus 2. And now we graph it. So we're going to come in here and graph the 3 order pairs that we found. So I'm always going to start at the origin, which is right here. I'm going to go over to the left, -1. So over to the left, -1. And then my y value is 0, so I don't go anywhere up and down. So there's the first one. Then my second one has 0 as an x value, so I do not go anywhere on the x-axis. My 2 is positive, so I go up to +2 on the y-axis. Then for the third one, you're going to start at the origin. You've got +1 for your x value, and then +4 for your x or for your y value. So there's your third. So now, just so you can see again, pause it if you need to look at those little units that I moved over. I'm going to erase those, and I've got to put them back up. So there was one, there was the other one. And then I'm going to connect the dots. And that would be our graph. So for number 3, you're going to either do this in the calculator or do this by hand like we just did. I'm okay with either. But what you're doing is going first to y equals. I'm going to do little dots so you don't get confused. Second, you're going to type in the function. And then third, you're going to click second graph to get to your table. Once you get to your table, you should be able to get all of these values. So I'm going to do this pretty quickly because we did this during class. But again, you're clicking y equals. You're going to type in the equation that's given. And then you're going to hit second graph and find where all of these x values are these. And see what the y values are. So you go to your -1 and figure out what your y value is. Go to 0, what is y value? Where x is 1, what is y? So on and so forth. So for the first one, and this is what I'm doing as I'm telling you, I'm plugging in that -1 and then adding 4. So this should be 3. This should be 4. This should be 5. This should be 6. For B, you've got this table at the bottom, and your equation is y equals 2x. You're substituting it in, so 2 times negative 1. So you're going to have negative 2, going to have 0, going to have 2, and you're going to have 4. What is a function rule for each table? So this one you're going to either do one of two things. Either you're going to use your calculator, or you're going to use the methods that we use by hand. So for the first, let's do it by hand. So what are our x values counting by? What are our x values counting by? They are counting by 1. So they're plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So we're not going to have to do anything crazy to the function for it to fit. Now, what are the y's counting by? They're counting up by 1 as well. They're adding 1 in between each time. So what we want to do is we're going to multiply our x value because we're changing by 1. We're going to do 1 times x. And then we've got to figure out what this is going to be. This part is going to be. Because typically we're going to have y equals mx plus b, which is slope-intercept form. And we've already found our slope by figuring out how our y values are going to be changing. Now we got to figure out what our b is. So we're going to choose a ordered pair. So I'm going to say 1, negative 1. I'm going to substitute that x in and the y in. So negative 1 equals 1 times 1. Now, and then I'm going to have something. So I'm just going to put plus b. So if I distribute the 1, I've got negative 1 equals 1 plus b. Now, what do I have to do to this 1 to get to this b? So, what do I have to do to this 1 using this b to get to negative 1? Well, how I like to write it is 1 something gives me negative 1. Well, I'm going to start at positive 1 on the number line. And I want to get to negative 1. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to move to the left. So if I move to the left, the operation is going to be subtraction. And I'm going to move 1, 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 to get to negative 1. So our equation is going to be 1x minus 2. So does this work for all of them? Does y equal x minus 2 work for when x is negative 1? So y equals negative 1 minus 2. Y equals, so this one we're starting at negative 2 and we're subtracting 2. So negative 1 subtract 2. And we get negative 3. And that checks out. If you keep going and doing the same thing for all 3 other points, then you would see that it does work for all of them. And then this one. This one we've got to create the equation as well. We're going to go into our calculator. We're going to create our equation. And you should get y equals 3x. So another way you can look at it, and I know we haven't reviewed it, but if you want to, you can say plus 0, and that would be another option. So number 5 is evaluate the following functions. So when I say evaluate the following functions, that means solve. Now, when this says f of x, this notation right here is f, and I need space because that's not going to make sense, f of x, and that's what you call it. F of x just means that you've got y equals 2x minus 3. The reason why we sometimes use this function notation is the fact that it represents that we can plug something in to this equation. It represents what we plug into this equation. So we're told to plug in 6. So we're going to plug in 6. So we've got y equals 2, and instead of x, we're going to put 6. Then we've got still minus 3. Then we've got to distribute the 2 to the 6. So we've got y equals 12 minus 3. Hopefully you know that 12 minus 3 gives you 9. So your y is 9. And all we're doing is solving it. So we're done. So your answer is 9. For your last one, you are still solving for it. So you're told 3. So you're going to come in here and do, instead of f of x, you can rewrite it as y. It does not matter. You're going to rewrite your equation, but instead of putting x, you're going to put 3 plus 7. You're going to distribute the negative 9 to the 3. And you're going to have y equals negative 27 plus 7. Well, I know that this is going to be a long number line, but I'm going to draw it just in case you need to. Fast forward if you don't need this number line. So I've got negative 27, negative 26, negative 25, negative 24, negative 23, negative 22. Actually, this is just going to be too long. So, if you wanted to, you could create that number line just like we've been doing. You would create a number line. It'd be really long, but you would have negative 27, negative 26, so on and so forth, up until you get to 7. You're told to start at negative 27, so you're right here. You know you have to go to the right to get to that 7, so you know it's a plus. And you want to know how many units you've got to go until you get to 27. And you got to count it if you don't know how to do it either in the calculator or by your head. But negative 27 plus 7 gives you negative 20.